you needed to refresh the audience that he was still there, but I agree. He looks very nonplussed by this. But then again, during the Senate hearings, he had that same, outside of his, man
just
spread
sitting
of
back in
crotch.
the chair, yeah.
Yeah, he was very, whatever.
Right.
He is acting as if he already knows the outcome, even though he has no agency to have that outcome.
And what's weird, okay, so I mentioned last week Eric Braden, I found the comment where he said he was not really a fan of the character. He found it to be a caricature. These can be the moments that if your director opens the door and says, hey, there's nothing for you to do here. What if you make notes? What if you do something, you fold something and hand something to someone? And suddenly he's more of an instigator. Mm-hmm. And you could even see him writing something, hand it to the agent.
Disagreeing with somebody when they say something.
Or it could have been then the agent takes it and goes, monkey, because he knows, push the button. Then he's not so passive. He has something, it makes me think that is just cover shots. That's all.
Well, we're about to get him to 2 seconds later, he's about to say call for Dr. Dixon. So maybe it's just kind of a reminder that he's in the room.
Calling Dr. Dixon.
It's just a reminder that he's in the room.
Dixon. Wait,
Dixon. We get the terrible dissect. And Zira says, it sounds as if I had the hiccups.
Yeah.
And she kind of gives a little chuckle. She looks over to Cornelius, who gives a little bit of a smile to her.
Right.
As if they know they're cracking a bad joke, but they know it's not going to go anywhere. And then she kind of looks up under her brow and glances over at the agent that's on the tape. Now, the script direction for this, which didn't really actually happen, originally had with a snort of contempt, Agent 2, which is the one that's standing over him, flicks off the intercom and wall speaker to look inquiringly at Agent 1, who in his turn looks inquiringly at Hassline. And that was supposed to be the note to get Hassline to, say, call for Dr. Dixon.
Okay.
But we're not using an intercom or a wall space. Zira's response itself was enough to kind of rattle Hassline to move on, and he didn't really need anything negative from the agents to interact for him to intervene.
The more and more I think about this, he could be that evil Wizard of Oz where he's not doing anything. If he were to sit there with his arms crossed, he could even nod at somebody. And it's almost like they had pre-conversations.
Yeah, and then we get the whole thing of I'm
still got my arms crossed like I'm Hassline.
I mean, wait, no, the Wizard of Oz never crossed his arms like that.
I'm adding something together, Sean.
But then we get the whole, again, where the director of this movie got very lazy and has to show everybody doing the exact action that they're doing. A car has to drive all the way from coming into scene, through a gate, whatever. So we have to see Dixon coming from the door all the way in to walk in, instead of you just hear paging Dr. Dixon and you see a profile of him, and then he gets up and you get a cut to him walking through a door, instead of wasting 10 seconds of paging Dr. Dixon, paging Dr. Pee-wee Dixon, and then he comes over. Yeah.
So Agent 1, who's the one with the mustache, E1, is the one sitting by the tape machine, and he flicks over. He's got one of those awesome,
reel to reel or whatever.
Yeah, there's those little small little box with 4 buttons on it that are lit up.
Oh, yeah.
Clicks a button and goes, call Dr. Dixon, please. Dr. Hassline calling Dr. Dixon. And you're right. We do. I mean, the audience that just heard the audio didn't get to see Dr. Hassline down the hallway.
Walk the entire way.
While he's still being called to come in.
So I want to be fair to Don Taylor, our director. I think that his laziness, as you put it, and I'm not trying to attack your
I wasn't saying lazy.
I think that's more the studio probably just simply saying we need this to be so buttoned up because of how inconsistent the previous film was. We want everything where it is, and it seems like studio interference where it is so purposefully obvious.
I would have imagined Dr. Dixon and Dr. Brand being outside the room.
Yeah, waiting to come in, yeah.
So we see him, so we have the interrogation room.
Hell, there should be a mirror that they're watching.
We have an interrogation room. We have an office next to it. In that office is a secretary of some kind and a military police officer. And then there is a doorway from that room that goes out to a long hallway. And that is where Dr. Dixon is coming from down the hallway, walking towards the camera, where he then walks in the office and then proceeds into the interrogation room. It would just have, we didn't need that. We really needed Branson and Dixon in the same room as if they're waiting for the results of something.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that even, of where you eventually in these moments get to Dixon being a participant within what's happening, you could have just almost entirely hard cut to what his action becomes. And that's, you can do those hard cuts of what he's going to do, and that's harsh. You see that needle that we're eventually going to see in this. I thought that's where it's sloppy directing editing, because
You're fine with the walk?
There's no terror
I'm saying you cut the walk out.
Yeah,
it should have been Hasselon even just looks maniacally bringing Dr. Dixon. Done. And the next thing we see is that, and a pull back to that he's there doing it.
Now, it may be different from the norms of today, but...
Well, hell, I mean, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but when you're going to...
No, but you did.
Well, I did mean to interrupt. I didn't anticipate to interrupt. That's what I meant.
I'm teasing.
When you're saying Dr. Dixon come in here, that's when you get the no, I will not drug these future apes that
and
are
we'll
smarter.
get to that point, but yeah, I definitely think that's true too.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think it'd be awesome if Dr. Branton was also outside with him, so that they seem to have some tension before he walks into the room. He walks down the hallway into the office with purpose. And I also thought there was this, and maybe this is the point. So, the agent is calling for Dr. Hasselon and Dr. Dixon across the facility. And maybe that's to show their importance. But just using an intercom to reach the secretary to come in would have been just as impactful, so long as we had Dr. Branton there to kind of talk about this look of nervousness or anticipation or about what's going on.
Right.
And plus they're advocates for these two individuals. So I would have expected them to be closer by anyway.
Yeah, it's oddly construed. To your point, the shot, the film is so obvious in almost everything it does as far as the action of getting people to and from that it's painful. But at the same time, again, that just feels so intentional that they made them do that.
And it's interesting to kind of watch these a small minute. So we're looking down a long hallway with the doorway on the left. Of where the office is. Mm-hmm. And as Dr. Dixon rounds the corner, right, as if he's giving his cue to walk, almost just a half a second later, we then get the staged action of one person walking out from one side to go back behind him, and one person coming from the right to walk down past him. It looked, when you pause it and you kind of look at these moments,
Make
it's
it a
almost
busy
like
hallway.
The signal was like, okay, here we are. They weren't already in the hallway.
Right.
He comes, and as soon as he rounds that corner, you see two more people just kind of move as if they're moving with purpose.
I'm being obsessed with this whole idea of what was done. So, hi Nala, hang on, honey, don't trip on my wire.
The staging office has that same terrible lamp.
Hang on. I don't want Nala.
Oh, I see. She's good.
There you go, baby.
Short babies moving around forwards.
So, trying to figure out, the hows and whys of you doing this. So they shot over 6 weeks, meaning that they would take Sundays off most likely.
So the entire shooting for the movie was 6 weeks?
6 weeks, being that if 6 weeks, that's 42 days minus one each. So that's 36 shooting days. They had, and I figured up here, they had to put in the can almost 3 minutes of printed footage a day.
When you consider that the movie is like 104 minutes,
98 minutes,
98 minutes, 97 minutes, something like that. Yeah, 97 and 34 3 seconds. To shoot that much a day is keeping a lot on camera versus
absolutely, and that's also why most of these scenes play out in one take. While they have
a oneer,
that have lighting that is so harsh because
and it goes for so long. Yeah,
they're kicking that stuff up, and so
using every second of film.
And I think that's exactly why they were almost probably intentional to get coverage of everything and said, "I need a shot. It's going to be long. I need him doing this." But at least the thing about at least when we see a car drive up. Like I said, the screen direction it was really well done. The screen direction of Dixon walking, I do believe they all went to sleep. They all went to lunch and they said, "It's on. Could you walk for me?" I do about 5-6 takes of this for me.
Lock it off.
Yeah.
Start running, and when the film's done, we're
average
done
magazine's about 11, 12 minutes.
We get that. We're done. Print it all up. We're done. Yeah.
Check the gate though. Check the gate.
Richard's looking at us like we're just talking garbage, but yes, we know what we're saying.
Kind of.
So he walks into the room. He walks past the secretary who's on, an old typewriter, opening up a file and typing out an old writer, past the military officer.
Back then, they were called new typewriters. Not old typewriters.
Electric typewriter. I'm not even sure that one looked electric. So he opens the door, and still seated are Zira and Cornelius. And Cornelius turns to look at him, and Zira looks. She gives him, and it's a very brief second. She gives him a look of hope, like she's excited to see him. Like, okay, this is where it gets better for me. But we don't really see. We see Dixon open the door.
Right.
We don't really see him move much in the room as much as we get a pan from Zero to Cornelius over to Hassline, who has his back as the door is being opened. There was something just kind of unusual about the fact that his back was open. As the door opens, he turns to look at Dixon. I mean, there was a conscious choice to have him not facing Dixon when he walks in. What I found interesting is just this, they've got stack of file folders, or not binders, on the desk, and clearly we only have half the alphabet because the back desk behind Hassline has H and I's. Like, I don't know where the rest of the alphabet is, but they seem to be kind of secretly staged around the set.
Really?
Yeah. Various letters. Sorry, I don't know why that's relevant.
I was trying to figure out the H-I-J, or H-I, what...
I was too, seeing if it fit anywhere.
Orangutan primitive kind of would have fit in there.
Orangutan.
Anything. Monkey, ape, gorilla.
By the way, this is the only one of these films that no orangutans are in.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't figure out what would fit in that nomenclature. Anyways.
So he shuts the door. Once Hassline kind of turns his back, towards him. He doesn't turn fully towards him. We then cut back to Dr. Dixon, who now has kind of a very serious look on his face. He looks down at Cornelius and Zira, and then he looks up at Hassline, who now has something in his hand and is walking towards Dr. Dixon.
By the way, Richard is not being very, very smart with this. He's actually watching it, so that's cheating.
No, he's got
he
like
was
amazing
repeating
notes
from his amazing memory, and then I look over here and he's just watching it. Oh, come on!
I think it's relevant for the audience listening for the minute. Is probably not watching the minute along with us.
Well,
they got
no,
to hear
yeah.
the audio.
Yeah, they've heard the audio.
I think it's good for them to know kind of where everybody is in the scene.
It'd be one thing if it's Star Wars where you've got an. Okay, there's not saying there's not a dedicated Planet of the Apes audience, but let's admit there's a Star Wars audience that can sit there and just like Shakespeare repeat it back and forth what they're talking about. I know, hey, high five to me too, boo. But I don't know. I there is a dedicated audience to Planet of the Apes, but I can't see somebody just sitting there repeating what's going on with these movies.
2 points to this, and I'm going to say this, and we're at the end. We'll probably want to wrap it up, but that makes me think of, and I probably mentioned it before, but I don't care for sitcoms, but Shelley and Abby used to watch How I Met Your Mother, and I'd usually sit with them, and there's one episode where Ted, the main guy, is bringing a girl over. She's never seen Star Wars. I'm going to make her watch Star Wars. They get to a point, they're watching it, and he's upset. I can't recall if it's that she's not watching, and then I'm listening, and it's got the music cue in it, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, the next thing goes, she fell asleep at the part where they take Chewbacca in, blah, blah. And I said, that wasn't the music cue that was playing. And Shelley's like, nerd. You're an absolute nerd. I was like, I'm sorry, it's not. But
wouldn't you have done your research though if you're going to reference that?
Yes, I would. And that did bother me. If you're gonna get the rights to use the music
and everything,
then just go ahead and get the rights to use the film. It's the same company. So I want to say something that I never thought of before, but it's kind of interesting is that what you did with the folders there and what you're noticing, you're bringing an eyeball to things. Here Sean and I are talking. I'm over here trying to find out what shooting schedules are, these kind of things and all this. It's just really cool that you're noticing the minutia of the set dressings and things like that. So as much as I sat there and I thought, where's he going with this? Kudos to you for noticing that, because I didn't see it.
When we were doing the variants, it was super important to make sure continuity was on point.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody's, shoulder strap on their purse was down, it needed to be up. If their hand was in their pocket, they had to stay in the pocket.
If they're eating in one shot, they need to eat in the other.
And I would literally walk around the set and make sure everything was where it should be. If we're shooting at a particular angle at the store, I want to make sure the product at that angle looks really, really good.
Right.
I want to make sure that it looks like dressed and everything's fine. I don't have holes on shelves or things like that. And then if we're shooting more stuff, I would try and keep things in the same kind of continuity. So having at least done 3 seasons of a web series, I kind of pay attention to those kind of small things to make sure they work well.
I remember when you used to do the CW wrap-ups so that you made sure behind you was all DC comics, specifically Flash, Supergirl, Black Lightning, whatever you were covering for that week, you made sure behind you was supporting that.
Yeah, so we would do, when we did the CW recaps, that we'd stand in front of the comic book wall, or the graphic novel wall, But in order to make it look interesting, I would take comic books and put in front of them. Because graphic novels are notoriously a little more shiny than comics.
Bigger.
And so I wanted to kind of get something that wasn't quite as reflective, so I'd use comics. But I made sure that if I'm doing Arrow and Supergirl and
those
Flash,
titles are around.
They were
those
behind
titles
him.
are
That's smart.
Jughead, Archie,